manufacturing space, we've got Rishi Holly of Fika Mobility. Representing EV infrastructure, John Misingo from EV Charger. They're the guys installing the charging station at State House. Looking at technology intermediaries and enablers, Jihan Abbas from Lami. Karibu. Going into the financing space, we've got Dustin from M-Copa. And last but not least, looking at the ride-hailing ecosystem, we've got Kranavir Singh from Yego. So Ezekiel, over to you.
Thank you very much. So today we are talking about being green. And the theme for today is adaptation of green insurance solutions for the e-mobility sector. In essence, we're looking at how can this support the SDGs. So I have a very good panel here that is looking at all aspects of the EV. Obviously, we are, apart from GA, our CEO here, Sandeep, we also have Rishi, who is an EV manufacturer for Fika Mobility. And also we also have John, who's in the EV infrastructure. He's on setting up the charging stations at EV Charger Limited. We have Jihan Abbas, who's in the InsurTech space with Lami. We also have Dustin from M-Copa, where they're doing the financing of the sector. We also have the ride-hailing service, Yego, Karanivir. And Karan. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
You see a car coming towards you and then you run.
So I'll start with John. And the question for you is, how can electric vehicle insurance contribute to reduce the carbon footprint of the transport sector? And what role does it play in achieving our carbon neutral goals?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I'd like to thank our hosts. This is a great job here. So one of the earlier presentations was about how much carbon is actually released. So most countries, if you are to look at it, majority of their greenhouse gas emissions actually come from the generation of electricity, using fossil fuels like coal and burning generators. But in Kenya, we have 93% of renewable energy. So what that means is that we have a very clean grid. With this product, what we are saying now is that it has literally shown that EVs work and that it's a thumbs up in the right direction. And for all the companies that are here, if they were not thinking about taking EVs, now they have a major insurer who are willing to take the risk and help them transition.
Thank you very much. I think now I'll turn over to Sandeep and the issue of circular economy. So what measures are in place to ensure that this product you've just launched for us today is looking at the supporting development of the circular economy, particularly concerning EV components and also materials?
Actually, you see, the basic, by definition, circular economy is when you have an ecosystem wherein you are able to circulate a certain underlying, and it actually delivers value when it moves from phases to one phase to another. So the basic and circular economy with context to especially G20 nations or the global south is quite is a quite important concept. So if you see the way the EV space is there, now all the rare earth materials which is actually going to manufacture battery mostly comes from Africa. In fact, it's not far from Kenya. However, we don't have the manufacturing capability. So basically what it results is an export and re-import of the same materials which actually is produced by Africa. Now, now if you see how the material transforms when it actually moves into particular phases. If we have our own manufacturing capability based in Kenya, then it actually has a trickle-down effect in creating an entire supply chain and an ecosystem. So that will, when actually the transformation happens from one phase to another, the rare earth becomes battery, battery becomes part of a chassis, which becomes part of a vehicle, which carries the passengers, and then you have a grid and an infrastructure facility to service that particular facility. So you are creating value. Now, what as an insurance company we are trying to do, we are trying to get into that phase and facilitate a certain movement. So we are not doing something revolutionary in changing the way it works, but actually taking a very small baby step in facilitating the movement and creation of value in the local economy in the sustainable segment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dustin, you finance people, and so this product is coming to de-risk you. You know, the role of insurance is to de-risk the market. So coming into the EV space, how do you view the role of this insurance product, encouraging innovation and development of new technologies in the electric mobility sector where you're looking into financing?
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. And again, thanks for the amazing product thinking that's gone into this. You know, for us at MCOPA, we've been, you might know us as an asset finance company focused on solar or phones or other assets, but we've been focused on e-mobility for 2 years. Yeah, before all of this, everyone's talking about things this year quite a bit in the press, right? But what's important is that there's other companies like GA that have also been thinking about this well ahead of the curve, right? And we're all focused on overcoming a trust barrier, essentially, for customers, right? The economy right now faces a lot of challenges, especially the two-wheeler customers that we're focused on, right? And what we see right now is that the economics are quite compelling, right, for riders to switch, but what they need is someone to trust, right? And when we're talking about trust, we're talking about not risk mitigation for us as a financier. We're less important, right? Our risks will be mitigated if the consumer's risks are mitigated. Yeah, and we're talking about personal accident, healthcare cover. Folks don't know what they're taking a jump and a leap of faith, right? And so I think the companies up here and the product thinking that has gone into this product and what we're all struggling with is how do we help consumers to take a leap of faith that will help Kenya, help the world, and help consumers' pockets, right? But what we're finding right now is that trust is the most important thing in the market to keep things moving, and that's going to be what's making that environmental impact. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Karanveer, at Yego, you're looking at creating an environment where people can just, use these bikes. But there's an issue people don't talk about, the disposal of batteries in terms of the issues of the environmental impact and recycling potential. Where do you see insurance companies coming in to support you in that discussion about disposal and environmental impact of these batteries?
Well, first I'd like to thank GA for inviting me, and I think their foresight in bringing about an insurance product is going to be a game changer for the EV industry because no other company has thought about insuring these kind of vehicles. As you know, in a EV vehicle, about 60% of the cost of the vehicle is a battery. And one of the biggest concerns that people have had is that if the battery depletes in 5 to 6 years, are you really clean if you cannot dispose of that battery in environmentally friendly manner? So one of the things that the insurance policy talks about is the fact that they even cover the battery, which to me actually came as a bit of a surprise. And if you look at the motorcycle part of the business, it's quite likely that the batteries packs would be assembled locally to meet the local content requirements. And those batteries would probably have a life of 5 to 6 years. The challenge I see is with the larger vehicles, especially with the cars that are being imported, where the battery is already 5, 6 years old. And now those batteries would need to be recycled, but God forbid they were involved in an accident, and GA then says, okay, we would take the responsibility of providing you with a replacement, which would come at a significant cost. They would need to do some kind of a cost recovery from the battery that was damaged. Because normally when a part gets damaged and an insurance company replaces it, that part then should basically go back to the insurance company to be able to recover something from that. I don't believe that there is an industry in place in Kenya today, but I think looking at the growth or the trajectory that one expects and the number of batteries that would need to be then disposed of, it's a great opportunity for some industrialists to come up. And if you look at America, where they've been able to do it, they've done it in a very intelligent fashion. So there are companies that take a part and actually extract the minerals back, and they recycle the entire process. So the yield is roughly at about 30%, but I think as technology improves, that would go up. So I think recycling and the fact that GA is already supporting this initiative, they would also now be able to support feeding these batteries that they are replacing because of any damage to an industry that can recycle them. Thank you.
One comment. There's one comment I would like to add to what Karanveer has said. One of the figures in terms of environmental challenges which one faces is the challenge and the risk of contamination. Now, GIA as an insurance company, we do provide environmental liability insurance covers, which actually covers the decontamination costs and associated costs which cost due to the sudden and accidental pollution while actually handling such risks. So we are actually quite a significant provider in that particular segment.
Yeah, environmental liabilities are very key insurance, especially in the large scale area. And then now I'll turn to Jihan in the tech space. Looking at distributors, technology partners, fintechs, insurance companies, how do you see yourself as a stakeholder in supporting the creation of an ecosystem that's conducive to the transition to clean energy?
First of all, thank you, Sandeep, for inviting us to this. We've been working on, maybe just to explain what we do first, we're a digital provider of insurance products. So we get a lot of these innovative companies coming to us looking for some of these products that they are not able to find with traditional insurers. So we actually approached GA, I think, July of last year, because we were getting a lot of requests for EV-related products. So we started to speak to them then, trying to explain to them, the kinds of businesses that were coming into the market. So for us, it's really important to be able to be at the forefront of some of these products that are being developed so that we're able to actually distribute them to some of these partners that are coming to us and requesting these products. But it's super exciting for us to actually see that the product is now here. So for us, it's more about now being able to take this and now distribute it to a lot of the people that were coming to us and requesting it. But I think there's also another layer, right? Because this is just the first step, the kind of product that could be a success within sort of this environmental space. So I think it's really exciting to have partners such as GA that are willing to listen to the market and to see the opportunities and to actually take hold of those opportunities by creating relevant products. I think a lot of the time, a lot of underwriters are afraid to go into risks that they don't understand. So for us, it's super exciting to just be a part of this and to be able to actually distribute these products to a lot of the tech or sort of tech companies that are coming up within the space.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I'll turn to Rishi. We saw earlier, Sandeep showed us 2 million cars, but very few cars are EV cars. So what strategies should be in place to incentivize fleet operators and businesses to transition to electric vehicles, considering the potential for significant impact on the sustainability angle?
Thank you, Sandeep. GA is such a fantastic initiative. Actually, from a FICA point of view, as a two-wheel electric motorbike company, we faced a big challenge 2 years ago on insurance. And I think, Sandeep, you and I had a conversation, and they were kindly able to mitigate and have 24 of our bikes immediately insured. Incentives. I think financial incentives from the government, for fleet operators. So maybe reduce, there's already incentives on importation coming in on sort of EV imports. So that's a great step in the right direction from the government. But actually for end users, even a sort of financial incentive for when they're actually using such EV vehicles. And that should be there. It happens in other countries. For example, in India, they have the FAME 2-3 initiatives where they've had lower interest rate calculations for microfinance. And I think that's one way to go about it. The other one is clear and actually monitoring the amount of emissions that happen and a target to zero emissions. It's all good putting out numbers out there, but how do we monitor it and how do we actually, be accountable for it? And I think with an insurance partner, they have the data and they can also help the government and other stakeholders ensure that such incentives are in place and that the government can monitor such incentives if they're giving tax relief and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rishi. Now back to Sandeep. You've just launched a very good insurance product for the electric vehicle world. But now, what about collaboration? How do you look at fostering collaboration among the various stakeholders? You've had discussions on incentives from government, energy providers, electric vehicle manufacturers. Where do you see yourself, the role of GA in creating a holistic approach to sustainable transportation?
Yeah, a very interesting question. Actually, if you see in the whole the conversation till date, what has happened, insurance industry was basically out of the conversation. So even I participated in a talk show with John, and one of the things where it was discussed, what should be the standards for electrical connection when you have an EV. Okay, even in that particular discussion, which is actually a risk where we are addressing a particular a risk, insurance company was not part of that discussion. And even if you see a lot of talk which is being done which is being put forward by various multilateral agencies like GIZ, FSD, somehow insurance company is not part of that impact. So now, actually, we are part of the conversation because here is an industry where the core theme is sustainability. E-mobility is all about sustainability. And now you have GA coming up with a sustainable product and getting enjoined in the sustainable conversation. Now, as we proceed, now we'll have to see how, as an insurance company, we actually actualize the sustainable principles of insurance as been envisioned by United Nations. Now it is all about thinking ahead and actually creating an impact. And that is what GA as an insurance company will be focusing on, and I'm quite sure that other insurance company will slowly start from the sidelines, will start becoming part of this particular conversation.
Yeah, maybe John, you can chime in.
Yeah, just to add, so Tesla have actually started their own insurance wing. This insurance works in a very funny way. They actually take your riding data, and then after that, they give you a score, at the end of the month on your safety. This then informs what you will pay the next month as your premium. It would be interesting if we could give matatus and bodas the same kind of product.
John, even though I say, but I can tell you, Margaret and her team is working on a particular project, especially on Boda Boda, to use rider data to determine the pricing of the insurance.
Yeah, actually, this brings me to Rishi, who's, Fika, motorbikes. Obviously, building such solutions will require you to provide some kind of technology to support such engagements. Maybe share some insights on how that can be implemented in terms of how do you see yourself providing that data to support these conversations, like what we just mentioned earlier?
Sure. So look, we live in a very data-driven economy today. So Fika, amongst other motorbike operators here, EV motorbike operators, including charging, our battery has an IoT BMS system, a battery management system in there. It's fully integrated with our backend. We're able to see the full driver or rider data in terms of how much kilometers they used, what sort of geographical GPS locations they went, even down to what sort of parking time, downtime they had. It helps us understand their sort of actual riding time. From a safety point of view, I think we're still a little away from it. That needs a lot of investment, probably some sort of AI analytics to come into that, but it is available, but at a cost. But we can definitely provide data to, of course, insurance and other stakeholders to see how the metrics are working for riders. And that has actually helped us, for example, to understand rider behavior, but also understand where we need to deploy our charging swap locations, which again, is very critical for an enterprise like ourselves. And then when we need to partner with others, whether it's through microfinance companies, charging infrastructure companies as well. So the data is very available, and I'm sure all the other operators have similar IoT BMS devices integrated into their systems.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If I could just jump in there. So one of the very important things that was brought up, what you said Tesla was doing, but it's something that we started doing in Rwanda about 6 years ago, is especially in the Boda Boda sector, if you look at the number of people who die on the roads or who get severely injured or maimed for life, the human capital cost is huge. Nobody has incentivized good riding behavior, and I think this is something which GA could step in and do, because the technology is today available, and even we have it, where driver riding behavior, which includes harsh braking, harsh acceleration, hard cornering, all of that data, because you can get a 9-axis accelerometer very cheap today. It costs less than $3. Put it into your GPS that anywhere you're going to put in when you're going to give a lease to own model. But now you incentivize the Boda Boda guy to drive in a more safer manner, which then saves both sides. It saves against accidents, saves his life, but it also saves the passengers who are collateral damage to their rash driving. So I think the technology is there. It's just something that GA could innovate on and then come up with a pay as you go. One of the other challenges is that you don't need to wait for a full month. The data is available on a daily basis. So actually, if a guy has been driving rashly yesterday, you could charge him a higher premium the next day. So he can see that the impact, and you could really be a game changer in providing a solution that would help save human lives.
Actually, I just want to go to the person next to Dustin, M. Copper. You've just had $3. You're the money man. Where do you see yourself plugging into such discussions where an insurer has a chance to implement such solutions? Are you looking at such areas in terms of supporting such discussions?
Great, yeah, let's do it. I mean, obviously, the amount of downtime that a motorbike has, just purely from a financial perspective, right? Like everyone loses with poor riding behavior. Yeah, the family of the rider, and the insurer, the financier. So we're really actively trying to participate with other stakeholders in finding these solutions. Things like temporary disability is another good example, right? So how do you structure that product so that there's not moral hazard, right? That does deal with the reality that almost every single rider that we finance will get into an accident, very unfortunately, right? At some point during a 2-year loan term. So how do you support them through those times, but still structure a product that incentivizes the right behavior? So I think we also, MCOPA is not just a financier, we also have our own IoT BMS that we work with OEM partners that we provide. I'm going to go back and talk to our tech and firmware team right now and take your suggestion. But I think let's collaborate on driving the right incentives together for the industry, because at the end of the day, we have to drive the costs down, and we have to drive the carbon impact up, and we have to drive the human life impact down, right?
Yep. So over to Jihan. As a tech provider, do you see uptake of such solutions where people want to do pay-as-you-go, monthly payments? What's the appetite of the consumer to pay more to have a gadget installed? What are your thoughts around that discussion?
I think it's really high because for people, for most of the time, a lot of these insurance products are quite expensive. And I think it's sort of driving the wrong message when people who have different risk different risk profiles are being charged the same, right? So I think when we first started, we launched our first product in 2020, January of 2020. It was the first car insurance app ever for products. And at that time, we actually wanted to do the pay-as-you-drive, but there was no underwriter that was willing to support such an initiative. So I think that there's definitely, appetite from the population. I think we've seen a lot of success in places like South Africa, in the UK and other markets where people are actually, being charged as they should. Because there's no reason that somebody who's just driving their kids to school and going to work should be charged the same as people who are driving out of town or doing long distance trips all the time. So I think it would be quite interesting to see, these kinds of things being brought to the market. But I think the ideas are there, but you just need the right underwriting partners to actually support some of these initiatives to bring them to life.
Thank you very much. So third and final question, I'll ask the same question to everybody, which is really, it's a very simple question. What does Kenya need to do, and maybe the general East African market needs to do to support adoption of sustainable solutions like electric vehicles? What do the insurance companies to do? What do governments need to do? Obviously, because you don't want people like GA to launch a great product and then there are very few, products, very few cars that can use this product. So what needs to happen in the market? And at least we have our regulator with us today, and also many other stakeholders in this room. So in your opinion, what needs to happen, for this to happen to support EV adoption and general sustainability discussions? So we'll start with Sandeep, going down.
Great question, Ezekiel. I will give the point of view what I think as an insurer. Okay. First of all, in terms of e-mobility, you need to understand that e-mobility is not cheap. So sustainability as a business, presently as we see, is not a cheap enterprise. We are waiting, as I showed in one of the slides, the cost of battery, how it is coming down, and as per the Bloomberg data which I presented, that presently from a range of 35% to 50%, how by 2030 it should be around 20% of the 20% of the vehicle cost. So when we are talking about sustainability, so there should be a sense of responsibility also from the e-mobility industry to adopt sustainable insurance products. Because during that time, what happens is that if we get into 100 shillings and 99 shillings conversation, then actually the viability of the product, it hits the viability of the product. You see, if you sum up, what is the insurance industry all about? You have a risk, you pay a premium to us to transfer the financial aspect of the risk. So at the end of the day, the whole insurance business, how much premium you are collecting and how much claims you are paying corresponding to the risk premium you are collecting. So I actually expect and I also request the players in the sustainability ecosystem to have a responsible consumption of insurance as well, so that the viability of the product is taken up, so that, because once you have a high proliferation of this kind of product, certain amount of cost will automatically come down. Second thing is the availability of the carbon market. When we started doing research on on this particular product, we were very much insistent that our first priority for sourcing carbon credits should be from Kenya. If it is not available, then it should be from the global south. So now, once we identified the projects for which we can source the carbon credits in Kenya, we were not able to buy it. In fact, we had to use an intermediary based in UK to buy the carbon credits, which origins in Kenya. And then we had certain standards also. It should be based on, it should at least have a gold standard credit to make it much more credible. The other thing is also that there is one player who is actually missing in the conversation, but they play a very important role. That is the reinsurance industry. So we have representatives from the reinsurance industry. That is where actually they also need to open up their minds. So certain things like user data based pricing. Now when we start structuring this kind of products, we face a lot of resistance from the reinsurance industry. Suppose if you want to come up with an incentive scheme that you have a property or a building or any kind of asset, and depending on the kind of sustainable practice you undertake, we want to incorporate that element into the pricing, what we call the sustainable pricing model. Now, we cannot 100% go ahead unless and until we have the support from the reinsurance industry. So that is where actually so in terms of reinsurance pricing, presently what happens is that insurance companies are missing from the conversation. So reinsurers are having their own conversation and coming up with certain things with no for consultation with the insurance industry. I think that interaction has to increase, and I would urge the members of the reinsurance industry to take this conversation forward, and I can guarantee you, you will find a willing partner to have this particular conversation as well. So these are certain things from an insurance perspective we think can be done to create, this is just the beginning, actually we need to open up the tap in terms of sustainability, which is still not being done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rishi, what needs to happen? Does everybody here needs to live with a Fika bike? I can see one here. What needs to happen to increase, adoption, sustainability, where we want to be?
Well, I'd love everyone to go with a Fika bike, and we have enough microfinances in the room, I think, who would be happy to finance you as well. Look, I'm going to take the conversation back 2 years. For 2 years, all the electric mobility players, we've been battling with the government to get incentives. And, there's been a lot of joint collaboration that came about in the last 6 months through the Electric Mobility Association of Kenya, primarily driven by Moses, who's just left the room, and so is Hezbron, who are the chair and treasurer, John, Dustin. That has led to these incentives being given by the government. So we now have a common voice within the E-Mobility Association. Sandeep talks about dialogue, so we're here to listen. Let's continue with all players, whether it's microfinance, other stakeholders. It's good to see the regulator supporting this today as well. And I think these sort of participation of events is critical to accelerate the adoption. And the association, I think, was key in getting these incentives And now we have dialogue going on with EPRA, so we actually have charging infrastructure regulations. The government has also set up a e-mobility task force, which has enabled dialogue with us. So we're now feeding in as an association with all the players. Yes, we're competitors on the road, so to speak, but we all have a common interest to make sure that the right product comes in. So I think that is critical.
Yeah. John, you're the ones putting up these charging stations, but I see you only putting up for bikes. What about, people in this room? I don't think there's anybody riding a bike. When do you expect us to start seeing charging stations for four-wheelers and being, everywhere? So what needs to happen? Because the insurance is there, the product is here now. Where are the cars?
Yeah. So interestingly, EV charger is mainly focused on four-wheelers. We don't do bikes. We have our charging points, about 6 in the country. We put up a charging point in Nakuru, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nanyuki. And okay, we're putting up one today at State House. I'll check on that. Yeah, just going back to touch on Richie's points. Such kind of events are what will actually make the industry grow. As industry, we can't keep talking to each other. We need the other supporting players to take up their role. GA, this is fantastic. This is, I really have to commend you for this. Like I said earlier, other players will look and wonder, why are we being left out? So far, the banks actually have spoken about having facilities. Richie, I don't, have you gotten? Yeah, so GA, great point. You've taken leadership in this industry, and what we need is more people like GA from other industries as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lami, in terms of InsurTech, you've had Sandeep talk about the reinsurers are not providing these products. But what can you do in terms of, from a distribution perspective, tech perspective, supporting distribution of products? What do you think needs to happen? What do you think is missing for proliferation of such, climate, sustainability-related products?
I think for us, it's really just to get the products to the right customers, the right people who are actually bringing up these technologies into the market. We ourselves use technology as well, so the process of which these products are being distributed as well is more efficient and effective. So for us, that's the key thing. But just, I mean, I know a lot of people have spoken about, incentives and all that, but at the end of the day, I think the transmission systems here is really a big hindrance, in the sense that although the cost of power may not be that high, the loss of power getting to these charging stations, although they may be set up, the infrastructure is not really there to support the low cost and the effectiveness of these kinds of products. So I think that's, the government is doing a lot, but I think that's the key thing that really needs to happen for major adoption.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Dustin from MCOPA, the role of insurance is to de-risk you. What do they need to do to enable you to use more of these insurance products? In terms of discussing going into the sustainability world, what do you think needs to happen for you to be, I don't know, whether maybe reduce the cost of credit or maybe give it to more people? What do you think needs to happen to really, bring us towards this sustainability journey?
Sure, yeah. Look, as financiers, there's certainly macro challenges that we face, right? The FX environment, cost of capital, these things we're all dealing with, right? But I want to bring it a little bit back again to where I started, which is de-risking for those of us on the stage and those of us in the room. It also has to start with de-risking the decision for the consumer. Yeah? And the reality is there's a lot of products out there that may not be perfect, but that are really, I think, good enough to provide significant value. But how are we working together to de-risk that decision, to allow someone the freedom to make a decision that, again, is going to save, in the case of a motor rider, 300 bob per day, likely, on average, right? And so Things like maybe warranty backing insurance, right? One of the most common questions we get from riders are, okay, when is this battery actually going to die, and how am I going to be stranded, right? Or where do I actually fix this thing when I'm in trouble, right? Or who's going to get me when I'm stranded? So it's those things right now. As Rishi mentioned, like, frankly, we can't really kind of complain. The government's done quite a bit in the last year to help bring the costs down. So now it's on us to say, how can we make this work for the consumer, and de-risking that decision. So I think we start with that, the battery risk, the maintenance risk, things like that. How can we work together to give them comfort? You know, one example is we have a free returns policy. Yeah, 9 out of 10 of our customers prefer their electric motorbike to their old motorbike, but they don't know that they will prefer it until they try it. Yeah, so how can we all work together to support that decision?
Yeah. Karanveer, you have a very interesting concept with Yego. So, first of all, we would like to see that concept where we just have bike somewhere. I take one with my phone, and I go where I want to go. But what do you think is or rather blocking or not causing you to be, where you want to be in the market? And how do you think the insurance market can assist in that, in that endeavor?
Well, I think I've talked about the insurance industry. I think what the gap is, if you look around the world, it's all about money, honey, in the end, right? So the fact is that wherever you've seen adoption really take off, it's taken off because government is given subsidies. Okay, and you look at even today with lithium battery price, the cost of lithium came down 10% in the last 3 months, right? That's because also the fact that they've found this huge amount of lithium now in the US. So we've found that there is resource for these rare earth minerals which are available, and it will drive down the cost. But that impact is not going to be seen for the next 2 to 3 years. Today, the cost of a vehicle, Rishi can correct me, is about almost 33 to 40% higher, right? For you to be able to put an electric bike on the road compared to an internal combustion bike, right? Now, your promise is that your running cost is going to be lower. But if the government would come in with a SOP, like they did in India, with the FAME 1, FAME 2 policy, is that they said that, look, we'll give you, depending upon the capacity of the battery that you're giving out, we will give you the subsidy. So you make the subsidy, bring the cost down on par with an internal combustion engine bike. Now suddenly there's no incentive for someone to not try the electric bike. That's second thing is the cost of charging. Most places now, even in India, charging stations are being rolled out, but in most of the cases it's for free. They don't charge you. Now you're getting your energy or your fuel top up for free. So that makes a big difference. So even if you can't make it for free, at least bring down the cost. Of course, all the transmission, distribution issues need to be sorted out as well. The other parameter, I think, which basically needs to be addressed by the government also is somehow you have to come up with maybe an advertising or marketing issue of making it sexy. The future is electric, but it's not been made sexy yet, right? It's not in vogue. So the question is, the moment you are able to flip it to say, hey, you drive an electric car, you took an electric Boda, you make it sexy to conserve the environment. That needs to be done. So I think we are on the right path. I think there are a lot of great minds, and I think GA has taken a great first step. But I see that the future is electric.
Thank you very much. So I think we've come to the end of our session today, and I just want to thank all the participants here. I think for me, I don't know when the day will come when I say I have GA Eco Drive, and then it will be like, wow, So it's really to say that I think when you say government, you say role of insurance, role of the financier, making it sexy, seeing the product coming into the market. The role of reinsurance, I think, you can see some of the reinsurance here. It's coming out that it needs a lot of collaboration from the many participants. So I want to thank everybody for coming in. I know this was a very, very, very engaging discussion, and I look forward to hearing from everybody. Thank you very much.
Maybe I could collect a few thoughts from the room, insights from that panel. Anyone with a thought they'd like to share, an insight, a question? I'll come right over to you. Please tell us your details.
Good. Thank you. My name is Steve Minder, the chairman of Continental. Our managing director is here, they're listening. Our experts are here, they are listening. Let me take this opportunity to thank the regulator, where is Sandeep? Sandeep. Congratulations for being a trailblazer. In this field. My question is to you. So I'm not going to let you off the hook. You are a pedestrian, citizen of Kenya, you are crossing, you trip over the cable that is charging your bike. You have nothing to do with the building, so the building catches fire. It has nothing to do with the electric. Do you cover that? What about the person who is tripping the cable, who is not part of your insurance? Have you taken care of that as well? Because those are hazards we are likely to face as we enter into this new era. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sandeep.
Thank you, sir. It's a very interesting question, and in fact, this is one of the things actually we try to describe in the policy. So any kind of damage caused due to the electric cable, like tripping, you are an innocent pedestrian and somebody has just put the cable and it gets stuck in your leg and you fall over. That liability we will pay. We are pushing the cable, something goes wrong, and if the building catches fire, and if it is attributable to the cable, then up to the limits of liability as described in the policy, we will pay, sir.
Great insight. Also referring to what Ms. Sachit had said Sandeep had said on stage during the panel, points to the element of layered insurance. Yes, you drive an EV. How many of you have ever left batteries in a torch for too long? Ever. What happens? It leaks out and creates a really bad mess. And that's what talking about environmental contamination. And many times, again, what you don't think about, yes, you've got your EVs, and then they contaminate the environment. What next? So I think there's a great opportunity that you've already looked into of how do you connect the dots across these different products. You have one, but then you've got the environmental layer as well that still comes well when you're thinking about SDGs and also ESGs.